Hi, everyone. Welcome to the September Brown Bag. This is Michelle Taussig, and with us we have Laura Naso from IRI and Jeff Cope from RTI International. Before we get started today, I just want to cover a few things. We will take questions at several times during the presentation. If you have a question during the presentation, please raise your hand and we will unmute you. You can also use the question box. We will be monitoring that throughout the presentation. So today we're here to talk about assessing new technologies, both internal and external. This presentation was given at the External Technology Network meeting this past spring. And today we have Jeff Cope from RTI International. Jeff is a Senior Innovation Advisor at RTI. RTI is one of the largest private research labs in the world. At RTI, Jeff leads development of new growth initiatives in RTI's Innovation Advisors practice and works with a variety of clients, helping inform and inspire, envision, and act on business growth opportunities enabled by external innovations. Jeff has over 20 years of experience in commercialization and new product development. He has helped numerous companies, universities, and university systems optimize their effectiveness in technology commercialization processes, including technology assessment through training, mentoring, and implementation of best practices. Jeff has a master's degree in business management with a focus on technology commercialization and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, both from NC State University. Jeff frequently speaks at engagements around the world on topics related to open innovation, technology scouting, and commercialization. Welcome, Jeff. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Michelle, and good afternoon or good morning, everybody, depending on where you're calling from. Glad to have you with us today. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a structure, a process to think about for assessing new, maybe in particular, early stage technology. And so I hope that this will spark some thinking about how you apply methodology to assessing opportunities around early stage technologies that are either being developed in your organization or that you're looking at from the outside, those of you engaged in open innovation. And would love to have some dialogue with you throughout this hour. So feel free to ask questions along the way. As Michelle said, this is sort of a repeat performance from a session that Alan Ayers and I both gave at the Charlotte Network meetings, and we've now turned that into two webinars. Alan's, I believe, was last month, and I'm going to kind of continue the conversation this month. But before I get into process, let me give you just sort of a quick word on RTI. As Michelle said, we're one of the largest private research institutes in the world. You're seeing a shot of our global headquarters, which is here in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina, and also a snapshot of our global footprint where we have people on the ground in numerous countries around the world. RTI is about 4,000 people, about an $800 million research organization, and we work in a wide range of technical, social disciplines. The team that I'm a part of here at RTI is one of the longer running groups within the institute. Our group's been around since 1966, and has been involved since that time in the evaluation of and assessment of and commercialization of early stage technology. And we have a number of advisory programs that we do that largely hinge around understanding technologies and their potential. What can they fulfill in addressing needs in existing or emerging markets? So we've been at this for quite a while. We've done this type of work and related work for a range of clients, as Michelle alluded to. And just in the last 10 years, if we look back over kind of the work that we've been doing, we've assessed over 20,000 technologies in a number of different technology spaces. So what I want to do today is sort of bring what's our collective takeaways from that volume of work, having looked at a wide range of technologies coming from a really interesting, rich set of sources of innovation. What are some of the takeaways about how do you manage that? How do you quickly, efficiently look at and make sense of the potential for technologies which are, in many cases, at a very early stage, maybe even pre any sort of IP protection? So another kind of quick word is kind of set some context. You're seeing an example of an innovation pipeline. This is kind of how we structure thinking around innovation pipelines. And the colored bands that you see sort of running through the center there are elements that we think are integral to successful implementation of innovation practices. So market insight, design thinking, manufacturing realities, technology insight undergird stage gate or innovation processes. Those might be new product development. They might be open innovation fueled. But these are some essential elements that help these processes be successful. And what we'll talk about today in technology assessment is a blend of maybe the first one and the last one, the market insight and technology insight. And so this is the context in which we want to think about application of assessment skills. So I hope that point is clear, that technology assessment, being effective at assessment of technology, can help enable a number of practices and processes that you may be involved in on a day-to-day basis, be it new product development, open innovation, management of your own intellectual property, development of that, commercialization of that, both to your internal development and maybe also spinning out opportunities. So I want to kind of paint that picture before we dive into kind of the nuts and bolts. I am a mechanical engineer. I love to kind of get into sort of practical know-how, practical knowledge. How do we apply these skills? And so I hope some of that comes across in the talk today. So if we move into this next slide, on the left-hand side you see inputs, and we're thinking pretty broadly here. So this might be technologies that you're developing internally. They may be technologies that are coming out of open innovation activities, be it intentional seeking, going out and finding external technologies to bring in and evaluate. They might be unsolicited technologies that are being thrown over the transom, either coming in through different sources. They might be technologies that are being developed within your own processes, and you've got to make some IP decisions around those. And so those are the broad sets of inputs. And what we found that is we take those technologies that we need to address and decide, what do we do with these? Which ones do we pick to take forward? As we help our clients, make those kinds of decisions, we found that an iterative, sort of structured approach to that starts with a triage and then leads to further narrowing down from all the options down to a few that are more strategic and worth further investigation. Those warrant a deeper assessment that then lead to describing and then addressing which technologies have the most value to a particular organization. So this could be, think about this all technologies as being a large portfolio that you're trying to manage. They might be, again, results of a technology scouting effort. They might be results of some ideation work that you've done that you need to now narrow down and figure out where's the right place to move forward. The first two stages here, all technologies, going through triage, moving into strategic technologies, and a deeper assessment. The process that I'll talk about, I think, is fairly broadly applicable. I imagine we've got folks on the phone from a number of different industries, a number of different technology spaces. And so the questions that we're going to pose, the structure that we use here, I think is pretty broadly applicable to get you through those first couple stages. Deciding on what to do past that point becomes largely industry specific. And I'll come back to that at the very end. And I want to, again, encourage, as I go through this, please feel free to raise your hand along the way to ask a question. Michelle and Laura will be looking for those, and we'll bring those up. I'll also pause later on to see if there's any questions on this triage stage. So let's dig into triage a little bit more, and in laying this out and thinking about these sort of staged approach. Why put triage? Why put this extra step in? We found that this framework really helps in a number of ways. First of all, it gives you a framework. It gives you some structure by which to apply some rationale, apply fair means for evaluating and perhaps documenting what your technology options were, why you decided to move forward with the one that you moved forward with. That can have some good value down the road as you start to look back and say, how did those decisions affect our ultimate success in commercialization? So by having this structure that you could use repeatedly, you start to remove bias. You start to remove and institute and implement instead objectivity in how technology options are being evaluated. It helps in a lot of cases because we're looking at very immature, very early stage technology. There's a lot of uncertainty around those. They all may have great potential, but there's a lot of work still to do to define that and to pull out of that technology, how to get it to its full potential. So by having some structure, we can help mitigate those risks. We can help mitigate some of that uncertainty. We all wear different hats and have to balance our time and effort that goes into anything. So again, this is about helping manage the time commitment that it takes to conduct this type of activity, and also, thinking about how do we make it really helps drive how do we make good decisions as early in the process and as efficiently in the process as possible. Sometimes we're trying to make quick kills, or we're trying to convince ourselves we should not take this technology forward, or we go in with that premise, and through the act of triage and deeper assessment, we talk ourselves out of that. We convince ourselves that, yes, this is a viable technology. It does warrant further investigation, further investment. So let me talk a little bit more about what I mean by triage. And basically, the idea is to have a quick look at 5 particular elements of a technology opportunity. And so to call this technology assessment is a little bit limiting in that terminology. This is really about an opportunity assessment. Technology is one piece of the puzzle. We need to understand it. We need to understand what its potential is. But we also, in a triage, we want to take a quick look at that technology and get to a point where we feel like we can stand behind it. We want to look at the IP landscape, again, quickly. We want to look at the people involved in this opportunity, the people that have developed this technology to date and are positioned to take it forward. We want to be able to articulate the value proposition and have a quick look at the addressable market. What happens later is we come back to these and look at in the deeper assessment, we revisit these things, but we get into a little bit more depth. And I'm going to come back to this graphic and explain these a little bit more.
Jeff, we have a question.
Okay, great.
Are there any tools do you recommend to search for complementary technologies outside of your current market space?
Can you say that question again?
Can you recommend tools to search for complementary technologies outside of your current market space?
Tools is, well, that's a challenging question. I think there's a number of approaches that people deploy. There's certainly a number of firms that provide services to do that. I haven't come across, and certainly that's a role that RTI plays. And we're always on the look for tools to help strengthen and enable the types of work that we do, which includes looking for those external technologies. I wouldn't say we've found any tool that really replaces the human intelligence that goes into our particular process. We've got tools that help us with being able to mine the vast amount of data sets that are in existence, and by data sets I mean patent publications, scientific literature, conference proceedings, trade publications, et cetera. There's ways to amass and mine those, and certainly there's tools. ScienceDirect, for example, is a great tool for being able to efficiently search and mine what's relevant in say a peer-reviewed scientific literature. So I think there's ways to help on that front end, but the actual finding of those technologies, I think, comes down still, in my mind at least, to a lot of good human intelligence. There's a lot of creativity, a lot of associative thinking that needs to happen to be able to make some non-obvious connections, and I've yet to see any sort of standardized tool or algorithm that's going to replace that. Great question. Thank you for asking.
No, thank you.
Let me talk a little bit more about what I mean in triage. And again, the triage stage is intended to be a quick first look at a number of elements that help validate that additional investigation, additional investment is warranted, or that it's not. And so some key questions that you want to be able to answer, or some key statements that you want to be able to say at the end of a quick triage, is that we should be strategically interested in this technology. This technology, through this first glance at it, we have some excitement around it. It fits with where we're trying to go as an organization. There appears to be novelty and the ability to protect the IP around this. The inventor is a champion, is going to be behind this, wants to see something happen with this, and will be there to help us get through the inevitable downstream barriers that are going to happen. The technology demonstrates value, and that value we can see applying to a particular market application that's of interest to us. That might be an existing market application, that may be an adjacent market application, but you want to be able to have some confidence to be able to make those kind of statements based on a quick look at these 5 elements. And again, think about those statements. Those can apply to an internally developed technology or an externally sought and found technology. So let me give you on this next slide kind of how we do that. How do we get into these 5 key elements, and how do we take a quick look at each of those to make the case, to help us say, yes, there's some confidence gained from this triage step, let's move this forward, or no, we've done enough now to say this is something to park, this is something to pass on, what have you. So again, here's some, within each of these, I'm not going to read these, but I want to pull out a couple things from what's in the slide here. And again, if we look at things like the technology, well, how does this fit within existing frameworks that we have within the organization? These might be roadmaps. These might be a growth strategy that's been articulated. How do we put some boundaries on the fit and application of the technology? In the IP space, usually this is just a quick look, and this is not done by IP attorneys. This is done by technologists or business development kind of people who have familiarity with the art of searching IP. So this is, again, trying to get a quick look, some confidence that, yes, there appears to be some operating space, or there's not. It's a crowded space, and we're not going to be able to operate much there. Thinking about value proposition, and this is about asking some questions that give us a quick reason to believe, that there is some value here, there is some differentiation here, and we're going to flesh these things out in more detail further down the road, should that happen. In the market, I think the one thing that we hone in on, probably most of all when doing this triage and thinking about market, it's not so much trying to nail down the general size of the market. That can happen later. We want to think about, what are those barriers? What are the hurdles that are going to keep this technology from being successful, and or might keep others out of this space? And does this technology help us overcome some of the barriers that might be there? So when we talk about barriers, we think about regulatory barriers, we think about societal barriers, cultural barriers, technology development hurdles. There's a number of things that can be grouped together in that terminology, and those are going to be specific to your particular market space and type of technology that we're talking about. But when we're doing triage and we get to market, we're really trying to address quickly: are there hurdles? Are they big? Can they be overcome? Does the technology help us overcome them in a way that maybe others can't? Now, another kind of takeaway I hope you get from thinking about triage is the use of templates. There's a number of ways to structure a template that helps. Maybe in the example I'm showing here, it could be something like a scorecard that helps you frame up. On the left-hand column, you can put some of those key characteristics that are important to making the assessment. In this example, we've built a table that shows you descriptors for critical factors and other factors. This is if we're talking about novelty, for example, what's a positive attribute that's going to score highly against novelty? So we've now got a framework by which to give an assessment, sort of a standardized assessment of any technology that we're trying to take a look at. So templates we highly encourage because it helps you build practice, kind of look at every technology through the same lens so that you've got some repeatability, you've got some documentation that you can go back to over time and say, are we looking at these the same way? Is this helping us make good decisions? So these kind of templates are useful. We have, I'm just showing you kind of a small image of more of a written template that we use. There's places that have checkboxes and confirmation and scaling and scoring to help, help really kind of quantify what is largely a subjective kind of thing. And so that we're not seen as kind of just trying to toot our own horn, there's a number of tools out there. And so here's a great example of another structured process that's been developed, and it's called Real Win Worth. And there's some great questions embedded in this particular process that has been kind of evolved over time. There's some links here at the bottom of the slide if you want to get into more detail and get access to these tools. But it's really about asking yourself some key questions. And for example, in Real, there's some great questions here that are about, is there a real opportunity around this technology? Obviously things like, is the target market size attractive? Is there a technology solution that satisfies the need? Do we have exclusive IP? These are, things that you want to be able to say in kind of yes/no way to gain some confidence. In the win and in the worth, I think there's some great questions in there as well. Do we have the resources to develop the product? Is this something that we're going to be able to really act on and invest in ourselves? Can we service and maintain the product? So some of these questions may be addressing a little bit later stage opportunities, but the point is there's ways to build structured assessment templates that you can use over and over and build some rigor into what might be, highly a subjective activity. So tailor this, make this work for the key questions that you need to answer again and again and again. The thing we tell clients a lot is pick a framework, stick with it. Use it over and over, use it consistently, and you're going to see some great results come out of that. So that's a quick walk through what we mean by triage. Let me take a quick break here and see if there's any other questions that you've got related to thinking about this sort of early stage of technology assessment. And we've got a couple ways to do that. You can raise your hand. You can type one into the chat.
I have Stuart Weitzman is raising his hand. Stuart, I can't unmute you because you're not dialed in. I don't see that you're on the. Can you dial in on the number that's on your invitation? Or just enter into the question box because I'm not able to unmute you. In the meantime, we have a question. Who should be involved cross-functionally at the early stage with providing inputs for the triage decision-making?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think going back to some points I made about the process itself, because the process can help drive objectivity. It can take out any bias. So I think you want to put people into this process that can look objectively at a technology, can unhinge themselves from any internal biases about where this technology comes from. But we also, when we do this, we're using folks who have technical backgrounds, but also have been in, R&D, new business development kind of roles. So they can not only interpret the technology and its technical merits, but also can see that big picture opportunity. So I think trying to find someone who has lived in both worlds or does live in both worlds now, who can kind of straddle both technical and business merits and have some objectivity. That's your ideal candidate to do this. And maybe, again, depending on the breadth of the technologies that you're trying to assess, you may want to have a team that's focused on this.
Thanks, Jeff. The next question is there a point where the project should be killed rather than going through those iterations at the different stages?
Absolutely, and that's really what the point of triage is to take a quick look at any given technology to be better informed to make that kind of decision. So if after a quick look at those 5 elements that we talked about, if after a quick look you've got a high confidence in it, then it helps make the case to go forward. If after a quick look you don't have that, then you've now got the basis to say, let's park this, let's move this, let's put it on hold, let's kill the project, let's look at other technology options that might help us get there more successfully. So that's really what the triage is intended to do, is help you make, in a quick and efficient way, those kinds of go, no-go decisions. And let me back up to templates. These templates can help you do that as well and have a basis for those decisions. I can't tell you how helpful it's been to inventors that we've had to go back to and say, the baby's ugly, basically. That your invention, I know you love it, I know you're so enthused about it, and that's fantastic, but the market opportunity is not as real as you might have thought, as you might have hoped. And when we have templates, when we have a basis for bringing that feedback back to that inventor or to that maybe that external party, hey, we've looked at this based on our triage. This is why we've decided not to move forward with it. That's where having some kind of standard template, standard approach really can pay off. You don't want to hurt feelings. You don't want to kind of burn bridges. And so having a rationale that you're using consistently, and then being able to share that and say, we took a look at this. Here's what we liked about it. Here's where we have some concerns, and this is why we're going to pass on it. It's hugely helpful. Great questions.
And there's a question about, can you talk about the time to complete triage and drive alignment on prioritization, the go or the no-go decision for each technology?
Yeah, again, it probably comes with experience. There's a lot of cases. For example, we may have a large portfolio. We may get asked, say, by a university to look at a portfolio of IP that they've amassed that they're not seeing action on, right? So a triage stage can be done in a matter of a couple hours. It certainly can take longer than that. Again, I think it's going to come with with practice, with experience, and what's the structure and the template that you're putting in place. Those things can help make it more efficient. But if you can't, I think triage to me is intended to be spend no more than a day, spend no more than a working day, 8 hours, to make a case for this. Make a case to kill it, make a case to keep it. I think that's more than sufficient for any given technology.
We had a hand raised as well.
Okay.
Alan Ayers, can you, I think I unmuted you.
Yeah, are you there?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Works. By the way, that number doesn't come up in your email. It comes up for the auto control, it comes up only after you sign in to GoToMeeting. Yeah, Jeff, Alan Ayers.
Hey, Alan. How are you?
Good to hear from you again. EduTriage, the part that gets me tangled up is the market.
Right.
And it seems like a very complicated thing to assess in just a few hours. And I'm struggling with so many companies have difficulty trying to understand where the market opportunities are and new technologies and even who the customers might be, let alone trying to do that kind of an assessment in a single day.
Yeah, so I think that, I think there's, you bring up a good point, and so let me try to clarify what it is that we're doing in an assessment. It's not about exploring markets, and it's not about saying, boy, where should we be? Where are we not right now? What it is about is this particular technology that's come to us. Let's say it's about, how do we make good decisions about which IP to invest in? Or how do we make good decisions about some external technology that's come across our desk? So it's really about assessing a particular technology. And so as you look at that single technology, single new invention, so early stage, nascent kind of technology, what do you think is the foreseeable market application for that? Part of answering that question is to go back to the inventor, go back to the originator of the technology, and say, why did you invent this? What was the genesis of creating this technology? What kind of problem were you trying to solve? That may give you an indication of the trajectory toward a particular market application that the technology was originally intended for. That might be the best end application, or it might be completely off the mark, and you can see a brighter opportunity taking it in a different trajectory. So it's not so much about go find and characterize and fully flesh out those markets. That's going to come down the road. It's really about what was the intended, original, and/or kind of what sort of the foreseeable market that we can think of for this particular technology.
So that would be more in the deeper assessment stage.
Yes, yes, and certainly, as any kind of new product development stage gate process goes, there's going to be kind of deeper and deeper analysis of the business opportunity as you go along. So I feel like everything we're describing here is still at a pretty early front end kind of stage.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I hope that helps kind of bring some clarity to that. We're going to talk about doing more market analysis and characterization in that deeper assessment, but that's still not a full-out business case. It's about gaining, again, this deeper assessment, I'm going to talk about in just a minute, is about kind of driving to making decisions. Do we go? Do we advance? And do we have enough of a sense of the business opportunity to help give confidence that further steps are warranted? And those further steps are certainly going to include continuing to build out the business case around the technology. Any other questions before we move into this next step?
I have a couple more questions.
Great.
This approach seems similar to the Heilmeyer Catechism. Can you comment on differences and relative advantages of one versus the other? And that's from Stuart from Eastman.
Well, I can't say I've ever heard of, and I'm probably not even pronouncing Hallmeyer.
Yeah, maybe I'm not pronouncing it correctly either.
I'm not familiar with that, so I can't draw any comparison, unfortunately. I think this is something that's been kind of born out of doing this, practicing this for quite some time, and again, I don't think it's the only approach to take. It's one simply that we've found and our clients have found to be really fairly effective, and balance that need for making good decisions, but not overly investing in time and effort.
Okay, the next question is, you included a cost component in the triage assessment. How much weight do you put on this when, in the early stage, there is usually high uncertainty on cost?
Yeah, cost, is well. I think cost. Let me go back to where that's referenced. We talk about cost in the value proposition. So you see, the kind of reference here is no obvious competing technology can perform the same function for the same cost. So these are questions or statements that help sort of challenge the value proposition. Do you have a reason to believe that the technology can do that? So it's not about assessing the cost. This is somewhat of a gut check. These are ways to sort of frame a gut check with a little bit of data gathering, a little bit of analysis, things like interview the inventor, spend time understanding where they were coming from. There's ways to quickly do, kind of organized thinking around this. So it's not about let's make an estimate of the cost. It's about, do we believe that we can get to a performance state that would be differentiated? Cost may be a way to differentiate. Performance improvements may be a way to differentiate. So we're not trying to define those so much at this stage. We're just trying to convince ourselves that technology may or may not be able to perform. I hope that helps answer that question.
Okay, great. There was also a question about the slide set. Yes, this is an updated version of what was previously posted on the website, and those interested, I can send to you. So we had a couple questions about that. I will just make this available to all of you, if that's okay with you, Jeff.
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. I don't know that there's a huge amount that's changed. I may have added a few slides on the front end just to provide that context, but I think most of the material here is consistent with what was sent beforehand, and also what we shared in Charlotte in March. Let me go on then to let me kind of cover the last couple stages here. Let me get into this deeper assessment. So now let's say we've got a technology, we've evaluated, we've done our triage, we feel good about it, we think it warrants. Let's look at it a little bit more. Let's take a deeper look at this. What does that deeper look mean? And again, we're going to build out kind of these 5 areas: technology, IP, people, value proposition, and addressable market. We're going to expand those out now and try to dive into all of the categories that you see here on the far right. So we're going to take technology and blow that out into a little bit more on the evaluation of the technology, the performance of the technology, the risk that's inherent with the technology, and so on and so on. And you can see that we've